Hello and welcome to the Realm of Ideas is Free to All. This is episode 77, Iconic and Idiosyncratic. Basically, we're looking into these two different personalities and finding out why they're sometimes confused, what the differences are, and what in fact they might have in common. Anyway, this is a series of ruminations we have once a week. We have a preview on Wednesday at 10:30, and then we have our show here at 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday while the sun is making its way across the Atlantic Ocean. And right now, we're kind of going to talk about this particular topic. It's
You're
kind
right
of
there.
oh,
Plug in.
take your time. Your drawing is over there behind their thing.
Thank you. Gotta plug in my iPad.
Okay, so that was Julie. Yeah. This is our international correspondent, Pangwell. Pangwell has been out and about. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and she's basically been kind of keeping an eye on them for us. So, there's Peely. Peely again is one of our best fans. She's actually kind of like she actually supplied the training and the material she made for Pangwell. In fact, this microphone is a gift with a generous donation from our patron Peely. So anyway, this is this is our program. I want to apologize for Wednesday. There's been a lot of pollen going around, and if you were thinking that I was having like old timers or young timers, it was just the fact that my head was kind of a little bit gone because it was like I was kind of could barely open my eyes and kind of form sentences. But always an honor to support the Art Science Complex. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Okay. So are you all right? Okay. All right. So let's see. I mean, a lot of times I think we confuse the difference between someone worthy of veneration or reverence and someone who's basically just peculiar and eccentric. I mean, I think that I would kind of put myself in that latter category, considering the fact that I kind of am, at best, peculiar and eccentric. Um, but I think sometimes there are people who, in their idiosyncrasies, are kind of somewhat honest in terms of their performance in that role. And sometimes there are other people that are just kind of, I think, neurotically kind of looking for attention. But other words that I think, might help us in terms of kind of parsing out the difference between these two would be the difference between compelling and provocative, and the other one would be like the difference between understanding and judgment. I think that oftentimes the idiosyncratic person has a tendency just to kind of looking for attention and will say something simply to be provocative. And initially, one might think, oh, this is interesting. And someone might be drawn to that and kind of think that there's something of consequence there. And then realize it's really not. It's just something that when you kind of parse it out or you kind of talk, it could, and when you talk to this individual, you realize there's really kind of like nothing there. Not that there couldn't be. It's just that in this case there isn't. So it's not the idea that the provocative statement couldn't actually have something compelling. It's just that that idea is usually compelling statements when they're mentioned sound very provocative because they seem to kind of go against the grain. It's just that sometimes they're not any more than just the statement themselves. A good example is I remember that there was a guy, Philip Johnson, and he said that Frank Lloyd Wright was the greatest architect of the 19th century because he was a petty little bitch, and he kind of like really didn't like him because Frank Lloyd Wright had no respect for Philip Johnson, and for good reason. Anyway, that was a statement that sounded very provocative, and it just was basically a spiteful kind of like bitchy thing to say because he was just a petty, vindictive little guy. But on the other hand, that's just for me one of the kind of quintessential examples. There was also a colleague who kind of said that genius springs from mediocrity, which maybe was the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard one human being ever say.
I'm astonished you're even quoting that.
No, but again, like, you know,
because it's
see that?
so moronic.
It really is.
It is.
But it was
moronic.
one of these things you're thinking like, oh my God, you know, if someone says like, this is hello, hi P, K.
Hello. Hi, Bengal.
Hi, Bengal.
You might want to move the arrow off my nose.
Oh, sorry, P. It's a little awkward. Yes. Okay. So, and now the best part of the program. What's new in Julie?
Plenty, as it turns out.
Turns out.
All right, I can't really
and
see.
Also,
can you show over like an inch?
I am. I'm all
oh,
far
sorry.
over.
Okay.
Okay. It's our sponsor, Tease Tea. Thank you very much, Tease Tea.
Thank
we love you
to
guys.
Tease Tea.
We have Jasmine today.
Yes, we do, and we're very fond of it.
Mm-hmm.
As we are of Tease Tea Mint.
Oh yeah, and we're getting into the summer months, so Tease Mint is basically going to be our, you know, our kind of beverage of choice.
It's wonderfully astringent.
True, actually true. So what's new in Julie? I know our painting's coming along quite nicely.
Well, our painting it's too large to show, but our drawing is coming well.
Okay, how are we doing?
So,
Want me to hold this up?
Yes.
So, it's funny. The paper looks blue.
Yeah, but it's actually
red. There, now it looks red.
It's kind of a salmon-y pink,
yeah,
actually.
Yeah, but it's like it's in the red spectrum.
Certainly not blue, yeah.
No, but like
it's really it
that
does.
Is interesting.
Because it's getting the light from the screen.
Yes.
But if you can zoom in.
It is salmon. There we are. I called this explosive earlier.
Well, thank you. I literally just started it yesterday.
Tell us the title. It's a great title.
The title is Pochette for a Visiting Dance Master. I'll say that again for those who might be shocked or too slow to understand.
Or in the back of the room. Someone in the back of the room.
Possibly in the back of the room. Pochette for a Visiting Dance Master. And for those of you unaware of what a pochette is,
I didn't know what it was.
That's okay. You're still cute. It is a pocket fiddle and means little pocket in French, and it is a French term. It is a pocket fiddle that was in use from the 15th to the 18th century. So it had a long life of 300 plus years, and it persisted well into the 19th century. It was in the violin family, actually, and actually plays one octave higher than a violin does. So it doesn't have the full range. If you could maybe zoom in super close, it doesn't have the full range of a violin. So why is that the title? The title is such because my drawing is a Hymenoptera drawing, and that is the Latin name for bees and wasps. And there was just a research article published in last week's Science magazine, which was astonishing, which is all about bees and their understanding of human musical rhythm. And I don't mean they're just imitating it. They recognize changes in rhythm, changes in music from instrument to instrument, source to source, person to person, animal to person.
Did they sing along? That was I like that. Did they sting along? That's a good one.
Yes, they do sting along. That was
I can say that's a toe tapper.
Oh, it was so clever.
Thank you, P.
It's so clever.
Yeah.
So what is key here is, as it always is, animal intelligence is vastly underappreciated and underassumed. And it is not just a simple-minded, intelligence. It is a profound and complex and a discerning intelligence. It is imaginative. It is inventive. So basically, the frequency of the rhythm, as well as its type and its source, is recognized by the bumblebee.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when I gave my lecture at the Museum of Natural History about animal architecture, and I kind of talked about the fact actually it wasn't really animals, it was more just kind of like I was dealing with social insects
Mhm.
and humans. And I think, like I said, it was unfair for humans to have to live up to the standards of social insects, because
Mhm.
social insects have been around for a lot longer and were obviously a lot smarter,
Mhm.
which was why their achievements were much greater. But I mean, when you think about the fact that we do know, right, that certain animals have spectrums of sight and sound and other, senses that are well beyond things we can perceive. We think, again, because of our anthropocentric nature, that we are obviously still superior in terms of not just perceiving sound, but creating sound and understanding sound. Which, considering the fact that bees have lived their lives for hundreds of millions of years with a keen sense of sound. Of course, there are probably things they understand relating to sound that even the greatest performers, musicians, and composers would basically kind of like fall apart trying to
Oh,
understand.
I think that's
So
an
I'm
excellent
sure
point.
that
Yeah.
like every bee, every hornet, every spider is probably 10 times Mozart, 10 times Beethoven.
Sure.
So
But
it's
only
just that
5 or 6 times Grieg and Sibelius.
that's funny.
I'm Scandinavian.
Yeah,
so.
or 100 million times Bernstein. But
Oh God, I wouldn't even mention him in the
Oh,
same
no,
breath as
anyway.
a Hymenoptera.
No, look, and we don't want to piss off for some of our music friends.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's I believe that we'll probably find eventually that in terms of sound and in terms of sight, that there are certainly organisms that are well beyond just the same way know that they're well beyond us in engineering and architecture. They're well beyond us in music and art and culture and other things as well, because it's part of their survival. And I think sometimes we forget that art and culture is somehow not pertaining to our survival, which of course is ludicrous.
So
anyway,
where is the pochette going in this drawing? One might ask.
Well, the pochettes, I mean, we were talking about the pistils and the stamens.
That's what I was going
and
to
I was
say.
thinking about the fact that like one could kind of, arrange an ensemble, like a chamber ensemble, as one would, as well as the way that you could have a collection of stamens as those things from which the nectar, in this case, the music or the sound, would emanate.
Yes, and I have also done some research on the physics of sound and the modulation of sound. And I have come up with some wonderful articles from ResearchGate, one of my treasured and very accurate sources. And the sound waves that are produced by a violin and those stringed instruments in the violin family, which the pochette is most certainly in, are vastly different in form, structure, and duration than, say, a trumpet or the piano or a human voice. Do you want to know what they are very, very close to? Birds chirping. So a pochette has often been called the little bird of chamber music. Is that not beautiful?
Interesting. So that's basically it. So the pochette is basically going to be this element that's going to be added to
my drawing. In 2 different types of flowers. And I am going to take apart the second flower like a shattering pond in winter. As the musical wave is initiated, it's going to rip right through.
Oh, okay. Because you were thinking about how to actually. That's exciting.
Yeah.
You were thinking about how you were going to basically get those, get the waves of the sound to emanate. And we were of course talking about like the futurists and like the velociraptors and stuff. But I think like that to me, like I would see that coming off as trite. So I think the way in which you're going to do it.
I never do try it.
No, you don't. All right. So are we ready? Let's get to this.
Yes, I'm going to put this safely away.
So I think that, we.
Tell me if you need a Ricola.
No, I'm good. We know we sooner or later understand, something that is iconic, something that's worthy of reverence or veneration. I mean, for people of faith, that would be Jesus. For people, or it would be like God or Allah or Jehovah. Things that are, maybe the Constitution of the United States, things that are, iconic pieces of work or individuals that stand almost for all time. And I mean, again, there's different degrees. There's like local degrees, I would say. Sometimes you get to the point where you see a person who's kind of like, say, Mozart or Picasso or Dostoevsky. I mean, these are people who basically have become venerable parts of their traditions and their vocations. Now, at the same time, I would see idiosyncratic as something more of a kind of personality type, whereas iconic is something that kind of is a kind of an honor that's bestowed on someone, like a medal or a title. I think that it's like you can't really, you can't, like we've always said, you can't give yourself a nickname. It's usually something that kind of comes from somewhere else. So, given that, because I think this actually was your topic. Lead us off
iconic and
idiosyncratic. Because
I believe it was my topic.
I do believe that one of the things two things I want to look at. The first one being the fact that there are times in which these two things get confused and are believed to be the same. But the other thing that may be more important is, what, if anything, do these two things actually have in common that might be of consequence? So start us off here, dear P.
I will P.
Okay.
I'm going to start off with orange wine.
Nice.
Which is a profoundly idiosyncratic, not just a beverage, it's an archaeological marvel. It is a creation. It is idiosyncratic from end to end. And by that, I mean from not just its start to its finish, but from its very inception, meaning the very idea of orange wine. And I need to say this, it has nothing to do with the orange fruit or citrus in any way, shape, or form. It has actually everything to do with the pigment and the color. In fact, many hues of orange, from amber to golden to persimmon to deep pumpkin and almost to a rusty color. This is a marvel of idiosyncratic methodology.
Someone we know, not mentioning any names, had indulged. Let's make all the words used so that I can look them up. Your lexicon. We actually talked about the lexicon. Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, one of us who's not here on this side of the screen actually indulged in her alcohol consumption a bit too much this weekend. Anyway, so
I don't drink.
Oh no, not us. It wouldn't be us. We're looking at you. All right.
Okay.
So anyway, back to our topic.
Would you like me to explain?
Yes.
Okay. So, thank you.
Go ahead.
So, orange wine is also known as skin contact wine. And this actually is very dermatological. You can draw rapid analogies to the human epidermis, but in this case, we are talking to a vintner's epidermis. So it is also called amber wine or skin fermented wine. Now, for those of you who are unaware of winemaking methodology, I will give you a quick primer. So, how long, or if at all, grape skins stay in contact with the grape juice is, and what kind of grapes we are actually talking about, is a determinant for what kind of wine you get, how it's classified, its hue, its coloration, its demarcation. So, red wine made with red grapes is also a full contact, but it's not a full contact for the entire plant. So just bear with me.
Like MMA.
That's funny. Yeah. So it's not the mixed martial arts of the vintner's craft. What it is a fermentation with the skins that are then, of course, strained out, and it is left to ferment with the skins. Now, here is what's key. Okay. In orange wine, the grape skins stay in contact with the juice for days or months. Now, this is a youthful wine. This is not aged for years. This is not, one of those things they'll find in the Titanic and wonder if anyone had a sip before they all died. So, what is traditionally, and this is incredibly eccentric in a very tantalizing way, what is considered traditionally undesirable in winemaking here is the crux of orange wine. So, meaning it would be if you take your hooligans and your ruffians and your highwaymen and your scallywags and you make wine out of them. And I think that is a pirate analogy.
What if someone was puckish? Or just
No,
roguish?
it's not enough. No, you can be a rogue, but not puckish, roguish. Okay, so here is what is
a
undesirable.
scallywag.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
But puckish, insouciant, they wouldn't cut it.
okay, no. Anyway, this is complicated.
I know.
It's so cute when he tries.
I try.
Okay, in white wine, there is no grape skin contact with the juice. They put that juice as far from the skins. That is a no touch zone. It stays white. It stays pure. It is not meant to have a hue. However, in orange wine, they put in the stems, the seeds, the skin, and there's a maceration that is going on here. So, what
like a mashing up?
Yes, that is a mashing up. So, what is produced by this process? What chemical compounds, what micronutrients are transmitted? This is an incredibly nutrient-rich thing to drink. If it weren't for the fact that it has alcohol, it would be incredibly good for you. Alcohol is very toxic to the human system. So you have color pigments, you have phenols, you have tannins. So these are all, this is a minimal human intervention wine. It's actually incredibly natural. So this is the very soul, essence, and substance of orange wine with a minimum maceration phase of 1 month. Here is the great thing. Guess when orange wine was invented? It is the oldest wine in the world.
Really?
8,000 years ago in Georgia. Not the state. We're obviously not that old. In Georgia, in the region of Georgia. So in Georgia, skin contact wine, there have bin poems written about it. It's that famous. In fact, there is a 1920 poem called Wine by the famous Georgian poet. I did not know him. I read the piece. It's a beautiful piece by Sandro, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Shenchiashvili wrote the poem Wine.
Could you imagine if he was a soccer player and had to put that on the back of his jersey?
Fit.
It would run down both sleeves.
Absolutely. So here is a Scrabble word for everyone who is stuck with 2 V's. It's kvevri, which I'm probably not pronouncing right. It's a Georgian word. Kvevri. It's the only word. No. It's,
K?
Sorry, Q.
Yeah, QV.
Yeah. Now,
EVRI.
Right. It's not QU, it's QV.
Yeah.
What is a kvevri? It is a clay vessel, egg-shaped, that was buried in the ground like a kimchi pot. This is fascinating. So this wine did not mature even for its short time of weeks or months above ground. It's a subterranean beverage.
Interesting. Now,
say.
I've spent 67 years above ground, and I have not matured much better.
You haven't matured at all.
I know.
So I think we need to put Bruce in a kvevri.
Yeah, maybe.
So Georgia, for all of you who don't know, is the birthplace of winemaking. So skins, seeds, stems, and the monks in the eastern Kakati region were very fond of orange wine. It was kind of what they drank. So that is my treatise on orange wine, probably one of the most eccentric and idiosyncratic drinks on the planet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. All right. So,
And now I want some cheese to go with that.
oh, cheese. Yeah. Perfect.
Probably a nice
Yeah.
manchego.
So I think, oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think that the reason why sometimes they get confused between these two things is they both usually can generate a tremendous amount of tension. And I think they can easily be elevated. Individuals can easily be elevated, and other people can kind of be given, because they're much more of consequence, it's hard to really understand the totality of their consequence.
Yes.
And I think also there's a cultural component in the fact that sometimes people will look at someone and they realize that what that person maybe did in their time doesn't seem to translate into the time in which they're in. So I think in that case, sometimes you may get this point that someone's perspective being right up in your face at the moment gives them a certain presence that can sometimes mislead you as to their true significance. So, all right, what else?
Oh, I always have to talk about my favorite species in plant science. I would like to introduce everyone to a jaw-dropping plant that you may never have heard of.
Oh, no.
What?
Yeah, no. What is it?
Okay. So, I would say this is a plant that is literally the core of the realm of what I call the persistently idiosyncratic. It is the Asian fawn lily. Happens to be purple.
I love that.
Okay. But
didn't you say some orange wines were purple?
No, they are amber and orange
Got it.
and pumpkin and persimmon. They are not purple.
Interesting.
But anyway, may I?
Yes. Be my guest.
Thank you, Pete. So you probably cannot conceive of a plant that moves in mammalian time.
Oh.
Yes, we have something, and that is my analogy alone. As we know, the mammalian life cycle is very long. Let's take the fetal gestation time for an elephant or the human,
What is the gestation?
I think it's 12 to 14 months.
Okay.
It's
I thought it would be longer.
Anyway, we all know the human time is 9 months. That is a very long time. Plants do not do anything in 9 months except grow. But the Asian fawn lily takes 7 years to produce a single flower.
Interesting.
7 years.
Wow. Interesting.
Now, the actual Latin name is Erythronium japonicus because obviously it is very native to Japan. Here is the beautiful part. Next time is the bishop's hat flower. I'm going to leave you all on the edge of your seats. I'm not telling you.
Why not?
Because I want to save a surprise for next time.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay. So
this is this episode.
No, the Asian fawn lily is this episode.
Oh, I see.
I'm giving you a preview.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So the Erythronium species.
Actually, next week is the Adventurous Mind Part 2.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yes.
This species requires a staggering 5 to 7 years, hedging towards 8, actually, in certain cases. Average of 7 of gathering the sunlight, meaning it is photosynthesizing for 7 years. That is unheard of in plants. Here is what happens. This is before they can produce even one flower. Their first flower is a solitary bloom. They don't shoot up.
Really?
Yes.
One.
Wow. Always one. So my analogy is that, as I just said, the bizarre life cycle of the Asian fawn lily closely follows the lengthy and complex mammalian life cycles far more than the rapid life cycles of other plants. So here is its life cycle in brief, which has a few staggering twists and turns like a Conan Doyle home story. its first years, that's
Mhm.
plural, it works on its bulb for years. It still is an immature bulb. When it germinates each spring one leaf.
Really?
Yes. So every spring,
Wow.
while its bulb is gaining in
Oh, in
circumference.
case anyone wants to know, Basil Rathbone is the best.
Oh,
Is the
Basil
classic host.
Rathbone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I saw somewhere recently there was this debate who was the greatest Holmes.
Of course,
like,
it's Basil Rathbone.
Basil Rathbone. Jeremy Brett wasn't terrible. He was okay,
good, but he wasn't as analytical.
Exactly.
He was not as
Yes.
whimsical,
No.
and he did not have the sense of humor that
No.
Basil Rathbone.
And also the character, the face, the expressions
Oh, it's perfect.
were just brilliant. I mean,
and Nigel Bruce was the best Watson.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, if I may.
Yes, my love.
So while the bulb for years is quietly gaining millimeter by millimeter in circumference, every single spring it sends up one variegated, twisted, modeled leaf. That's it, one. Then after all the energy is collected in the bulb, the bloom trigger, after years of photosynthesis, this is what it triggers. It sends up 2 leaves in the spring. I'm not kidding. So when it sends up 2, that's the precursor to a single bloom. It is a gorgeous purple spear-shaped flower, one gorgeous flower, which at its center has a unique calligraphic fingerprint that is gorgeous and looks like calligraphy.
Interesting.
And it's thoroughly unique to each flower.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a lot of notes, but I don't want to dominate.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to make a musical analogy that this flower is not a Gulliver, showy, elaborate flower, but it is rather incredibly fragile, and it is delicate. It is a nocturne on solo piano, not a towering symphony. And 30% of its stem lives underground.
Really, 30%?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And my final thing here, it is so rare that a starch was made from its bulb for use in the world's most expensive wagashi. Chew on that.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, on to you.
Okay, so I think that we kind of come across individuals. And like I said, I think iconic is really more kind of a testament to a life, and idiosyncratic is more kind of a lifestyle. And I think that we kind of, at least the way I see it based on the title. So I think that we can often find an individual who is very charismatic and very kind of like, let's see, can surround himself or get surrounded by as a result of kind of like certain attractive peculiarities or eccentricities. And as a result, that individual kind of like will get a tremendous amount of attention. And then you have to understand, what is that based on? I think that the 2 words that come to mind for me, and are always things that I think happen to kind of like set a balance for any kind of time, is the difference between understanding and judgment. I believe that many times one of the extremes of the case was kind of Leonardo's kind of like preoccupation with understanding. I can relate to that in the fact that I always feel as if there's more that I could know before I pass judgment. There's more that I could know till I really truly understand. And as a result, there's a hesitation to basically rush to any kind of an assessment. Today, our character is such, and I think this is maybe one of the reasons why these 2 things get more overlap than they really generally deserve, which is the fact that judgment seems to be almost without understanding, if that's possible. I think there are certain people who feel as if they generate an authority simply by opening their mouth or simply by typing on a keyboard. And it doesn't pertain to even knowing the subject matter. I think that's a unique circumstance to our time, because I know that even in the short time that I lived on this planet, I have seen that change. And maybe, I don't think social media is the excuse for it. I think social media is just
It's the enabler.
I don't even
You
know
don't
if it's an
think? Yeah.
enabler. I think it's
Yeah.
just like a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
It's like you
Yeah.
don't see these things
That's
until you
true.
can get social media
Mm.
allows a certain magnification into the lives of ordinary people. And as a
True.
result, you can kind of see those things that previously were hidden. Almost the same way, if you notice, people when they drive, they will basically kind of have a certain attitude because of the fact that they can speed off and they're in this large metal cocoon.
Mhm.
So they kind of feel as if they can express that kind of indifference, which is truly part of their character.
Mhm.
It's just that when a sense of vulnerability kind of like is present, they feel less likely to kind of take that tact. But when you're in a vehicle and you can quickly speed off and no one can really kind of get their hands around your neck, then you really see that what certain people have as part of their character. So I think in this case, it's kind of there's a similarity in that this device magnifies that characteristic that we always had. It's just that basically it was hidden because there wasn't enough of a spectrum that could magnify its signal toss, correlating back to what we we're talking about with the honeybee. I think that we blame social media for the ills of ourselves rather than kind of see that social media just simply allowed it for them to become obvious rather than it basically changed human nature. I believe human nature is constantly under change. It's constantly kind of changing. Sometimes it even evolves. But at the same time, I don't believe it was affected so much by social media as much as social media just gave it an outlet. But I think that was pretty much our presence. Now we could talk about like cultural difference between generations or individuals. I think that's a factor as well. But I don't think that that the indifference, callousness, and vindictiveness and cruelty that we see today is something that was invented by this generation. It just seems to kind of be focused at the moment on this generation. It's easy to kind of say hateful, spiteful things when no one can come to your mother's basement and kick the shit out of you, or whatever. But I mean, I think that there's certainly people who are benefiting from this idea of kind of taking advantage as a result of the fact that they're hard to get at. Yeah. Anyway, so
I'm going to head back to avian culture.
I was talking about idiosyncratic. I was talking about it.
I thought you were ceding.
No, I was.
To me.
I am ceding the floor to my loved one.
Okay. If you want to continue.
No. I was finished. I just, I thought you were chiding me, or you kind of
no,
like,
okay. No, not
all right, good for you. All right.
Good for you.
Oh, good for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. We love the Marx Brothers.
Anybody doesn't love the Marx Brothers?
Yes, and we are playing out a scene from A Day at the Races, and if anyone has not seen A Day at the Races and the scene where actually Groucho Marx is being entrapped and seduced by a woman who's trying to ensnare him and have Margaret Dumont walk in and get furious, which of course is prevented. You must see the table service scene with the giant floral arrangement that no one can see up, down, or past. It is hilarious, and that's what we are playing out.
I think that actually we spoke about this in another topic is the fact that like one of the things I think that's necessary is we talked about this in terms of an unbreakable bond is the fact that sarcasm is a great way to test the character of an individual. If an individual is not capable of taking a little ribbing, then that person is really not going to do well when intellectually they're put in a position of stress. So I think one of the things is like the inability to think on one's feet is something that really is something that needs to be cultivated and appreciated. One of the things that one's talking about relation to a lot of politicians right now, at least that they see on one side of the aisle, is that there's no one who can basically work without a script and without everything pre-made. I think that, one of the things I see is the fact that the ability to think on one's feet, the ability to answer questions. I feel that one of my responsibilities, and I took this seriously when I was a critic, I still take it seriously now. I need to be able to answer any question from anyone at any time, anywhere. And I
that's
think
an
that's
excellent attitude.
yeah, I think that that's something that,
Mhm.
and I don't think that there needs to be time, or, there should be an ability to kind of like be able to kind of respond to something as best as possible, as well as possible
So,
effectively.
to our viewers, ask your questions.
No, of course, of
Yeah.
course. Anyway,
Oh,
back
should
to you,
I?
Miley.
Okay.
Yes, P.
Okay.
Because remember, the last 15 minutes is our back and forth and kind of
Well,
open
yes,
discussion. But
that's
we're
right.
already
I think
kind of
we're
doing that.
already doing that now, and
Aren't we clever?
I think we are have a fluid open structure, and if we're doing it now, then we,
We're evolving.
Yes. Okay. Shall I continue?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I'm taking us back to avian culture. Okay. So here is the idea, and I will now illustrate it through birds. An iconic process manifested by a deeply idiosyncratic species. I will say that again. An iconic process manifested by a deeply idiosyncratic species. And that is iconic and idiosyncratic. So the iconic process is coevolution. Okay. The deeply idiosyncratic species is the sunbird. And the sunbird is absolutely fascinating. There is a Darwinian coevolution that is fierce between all species of the sunbird, which is native to South Africa, parts of Asia, and the firecracker plant and other species of plants that have long horn-shaped blooms. This is critical. Tubular, impossibly long curved blooms where the nectar is pooled and hidden at the base of the bloom. So this is the same as the conjecture that when Darwin found the hawk moth with the impossibly long proboscis,
which he
predicted, even though no one had seen, and he had not yet seen a co-evolved flower, he knew it must exist. And sure enough, there is a flower.
Because when we do science and we do it well, we can predict certain things that we don't see to be able to come and happen.
Yes, exactly.
Science is so smart.
It is. And this is what I call beautiful information. What I mean by beautiful information is when you're feeling down or depressed about all the crap going on in the world, and there's plenty to feel down about, think about what I'm saying now, and your mind will be occupied with something wondrous. And it really works. It really lifts up, at least it works for me. It lifts my spirits to actually focus tremendously on something that's jaw-dropping and fascinating. So here is the fascinating.
I prefer kitten videos on TikTok.
Oh, kitten videos are so cute. I'm a dog person. Anyway, so the sunbird is native to Asia and Africa. And the firecracker plant, as well as the erica plant, interestingly, the proteus plant and the lion's tail and the calyandra, all plants with horn-shaped long blooms. So the sunbirds exhibit an extraordinary specialized coevolution driven by a unique nectar-feeding mechanism. You're going to love this. Intralingual suction.
Oh, yeah.
It is the only vertebrate known to do this on the planet. Now, this is going to occupy you in your darkest hour. You will think, God, intralingual suction, that is awesome. And honestly, it is so cool. But see, this is how people should engage, but often can't. I read the research in science, and then I looked up the actual authors who, trying to get their original earth-shattering research out of the only vertebrate to practice intralingual suction, they had 4 views on YouTube. 4 views.
That's so sad.
So, I mean, nobody was paying attention because people cannot discern what is really important and beautiful information from the white noise that is everywhere.
That's actually a topic we have coming up
Yes.
in the summer. And in fact, let me just say something about it.
Yeah,
'Cause let me just
sure.
thank again our sponsor and our subscribers, because honestly,
Yes.
to get people to listen to kind of like crazy, eccentric individuals who talk about ideas
Yeah, he's
is
referring to us.
yes, yeah, I was yeah, but Julie's the pretty one.
Thanks.
But like to talk about ideas is something that just seems completely unheard of. And I have to be incredibly grateful to the fact that we're almost at 300 subscribers. And we
and
have
they're all
people,
real people,
we have people
not
who are kind of
bots
like
or
showing up at 2
algorithms.
o'clock in the morning,
Yeah, cool.
listening to us, talk about this kind of wild-eyed gibberish.
Okay.
I mean, again, I believe that one of the things that saves us and gives us hope is the fact that there is a realm of ideas and that there is a desire for people to engage there. So I think that in that regard,
True.
yeah, I mean, when I see some of these things in
It's
terms
true.
of these things that are indeed beauty, that's something that gives me hope.
It is.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to quickly flesh out what the sunbird does. Now that I brought it up, I can't drop it.
Oh, no, don't drop it.
Okay.
It'll shatter.
Okay. Okay, P.
Then we'll have to glue it back together.
P. This is really, really cool.
Okay, go P. Go.
Okay. So this is totally different from a hummingbird. People thought that sunbirds fed like hummingbirds. They do not. Okay. People were wrong about this entirely. So a hummingbird is a load and squeeze feeder. That's load and squeeze. Its feeding mechanics are rapid loading and squeezing of nectar, like a pulse that's coming over and over and over again. It does not employ suction of any kind. It's a rapid flicking back and forth rapidly. Okay. It simply traps nectar with the speed of rapid tongue extensions and repetitive motions like a Giacometti drawing.
Oh, God. That's right.
Okay. So here is the breathtaking discovery in the avian world, in the vertebrate world. Sunbirds make a V-shaped trough in their tongue. This is a conscious thing. It forms a seal against their own beak to suck nectar. I have photos from the research article. They've mapped out all the mechanics. I'll show you next time. I don't have time now.
Okay.
So you can read this article in the 2026 issue of Current Biology. You can read the short brief in Science from last month. So this specialized energy efficient feeding mechanism has propelled the evolution of narrow trumpet-shaped curved flowers which perfectly fit their elongated, slender curved beaks. So a whole group of flowers has been propelled in the evolutionary world. This is beautiful.
Nature's so clever.
Yeah, I can skip this because I don't want to take up the rest of the time.
All right. So
I have
now
this tiny little other part, but
it culturally right. All right. So let me put the question out there. In terms of our circumstances right now, I've talked a little bit about it. Why do we get this sense of, let's say, a healthy or an unhealthy idiosyncratic character?
Why do we get it, or
why in this circumstance, why would we see a predominance of, say, an unhealthy idiosyncratic character, and what would that be, and is that possible?
I believe that why we are seeing this are individual human epigenetic responses to severe environmental and social stressors. That's what I think.
Example.
Well, okay.
I would agree. I think I might agree with that.
Yeah. The example is the horrifying war in the Ukraine. Okay. There are many ways a person might respond individually in their private time. I'm not talking about a public kind of a display. I'm not talking about marching. I'm saying in your quiet moment alone, what is your brain doing to process this? How is your mind thinking about the horror of something that's very hard to conceive and very hard to deal with? My personal way is a very, very eccentric, very, very idiosyncratic way. I dive into plant science, I dive into avian science. I go to the most interesting new discoveries and plumb the depths of why they happened and how they happened and occupy my thoughts, all the while keeping what's going on in the Ukraine. It really hasn't left. I'm simply superimposing a structure of my own research over that, almost like a semi-transparent net.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But somebody else may go online and have like a long rant about it, or might go and get into an argument in a bar, or they may join a demonstration.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because, again, I don't want to get into kind of social things and
No, I don't
politics and
think
stuff
we
like
should.
that.
Yeah.
But, one of the things I do say that I have frequently thought is the fact that there's a tradition in Europe of protestation. And in America, we kind of have taken this and we've introduced it kind of in the 19th and the 20th century. But for the most part, I mean, we had this idea that when we faced a problem, and it maybe because there's like a real kind of cause and effect kind of practicality of an agrarian continent, is the fact that like one can't complain about a reality, one has to basically deal with reality. So I think the farmer's attitude, which is part of that that is that we don't have the luxury of going to someone else and advocating on our behalf to have something changed. Farmer has to deal with it immediately or else they suffer. So I think in America, though we are the children of a revolution, our revolution was actually more than just kind of walking up and down the street in front of the Capitol with signs. We took it upon ourselves to basically take things into our own hands. And I think in general, today when I see this kind of activism, I don't see the activism as any more than a kind of devil's advocate of like, I think that, if we want to look at this could conceivably be a problem. Okay, what's the solution? And I think that one of the reasons why America became a great engineering nation was it really had that advocacy for activity, not simply kind of like, not simply activism, but actually action, the actual taking of consequential steps. One of the examples of that, which I always feel is interesting, is that anytime I come and I meet people all the time who are kind of, talk about, the climate circumstance. And I believe that the question I always like to ask is, do you know of any questions or any issues as a result of your research in this field that don't have engineering solutions? And if so, right, what could they be? On the other hand, if there are, right, not anything beyond that, why are we not looking for those engineered solutions to at least the things we do know are likely? I think that maybe that's because to me, that seems like an American response to the circumstance. It's like, why don't we employ the great engineering reality that we have towards creating a circumstance that could conceivably be able to kind of approach these problems? I mean, we look at the fact that, Holland as a good example. Holland has had to deal with its crisis of being underground or underwater, and actually has engineered solutions for hundreds of years in order to basically still be
extremely
successful. Yeah. So the thing is, in the case where we have done fairly good job in kind of understanding what we're going to be dealing with in terms of certain things that we know are going to happen, what are the engineered solutions? And why are we not making this part of that agricultural and kind of industrial infrastructure of the next 100 to 200 years? Now, again, we've talked about the idea that there would be need for a department of architecture or a department of engineering within the, within any kind of like, government cabinet. But I mean, we do have a Department of Agriculture. We have a Department of Transportation, but at the same time,
Not a very good one.
No. But I think but I think just the same way that we look at certain places and realize there were certain infrastructural things that kind of were part of the kind of cultivation of America as a result of its engineering prowess. This has been lost, and I do believe needs to be reinstituted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so wrapping up here, my little one. What do we see? I see you've signed your notes.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So say.
Sign my notes. I wanted to say that coevolution exists between hundreds, if not thousands, of species, both known and undiscovered. So the idea that something truly unique or bizarre, strangely beautiful, weirdly contorted, and symphonically compelling means that something else strangely beautiful and marvelous
Yes, say.
is actually existing someplace.
Nothing. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's a bit on the distracted side.
Mm-hmm.
Must exist. I mean, it would be like saying I exist, therefore there is a receptive organism of equal imagination and creativity which must exist someplace else that is co-evolved with me.
True. And in fact, we talked about this in terms of Whitehead when he was talking about his relationship to understand Newton's like laws of motion, and he talked about the isolated system. The isolated system exists within context. And in fact, the term isolation is only valuable in terms of understanding its internal mechanism as a result of those things in which it kind of like has to respond and correlate. So I think in that case, very well said. So next week, we will be doing part 2 of our earlier topic about the adventurous mind. And basically, kind of like sitting next to me is probably the premier adventurous mind that I've come across in my lifetime. And I think, did we have a subtitle? Let's see. The Nature of the Adventurous Mind 2, Things the Adventurous Mind Does.
Well, that's certainly tantalizing.
Yes, it is. I can't wait. All right, so we'll kind of like, that's it kind of for now. We're kind of wrapping up. I think we kind of covered some of these things. Again, this was a good topic. I mean, it was one of Julie's topics, and I felt like
I have 3 or 4 pages of notes we never even got to.
Well, actually, we'll do a part 2 then sometime. Yeah. But I think that like these kind of two things, there's a correlation between these topics, and I think I would say that like there are many iconic figures that are idiosyncratic individuals, but not every idiosyncratic individual becomes iconic. So I think there is a correlation. There probably is something specific. I don't think they're basically, I think, one is a noun and one is an adjective, maybe, or even, an adverb. But I can't believe I said that. That was actually a grammatical.
Wow.
That was the only time in your life you're ever going to hear me make those kind of distinctions. Oh,
you like
okay.
To say a parting word?
No, I'm kind of feel lightheaded now. I can't believe I just
No,
did
I
that.
can say the parting
Yes,
word.
of course.
So it's not like a mirror universe where you have a good Spock and bad Spock, a really great episode of classic Star Trek. This is where you have a fascinating Spock and another fascinating Spock.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
Good job. Okay. The Rumble of Ideas is free to all and it's the benefit of all for us to keep it exactly that way.
Precisely.
Precisely indeed.
Yeah.